of patience. What is this level of patience? It's the aspect of da'at. That's what it is. It's an aspect of da'at, which is the way that the Torah calls expanded consciousness. And how do we know that the Bet Hamikdash, we said that this miracle of feeling the space, the expanded space, comes from the Bet Hamikdash. How do we know that the Bet Hamikdash is this aspect of that? And the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, Tzadik Bet Amud Aleph, tells us, Ve'amar Rabbi Elazar, Kol mi sheyesh bo da'at, ki'ilu nivneh Bet Hamikdash biyamav. Every person that has da'at, it's as if the Bet Hamikdash was created, rebuilt in his days. And this is something that we all want to connect to. We all know that the generation that the Bet Hamikdash was not rebuilt, it's as if they destroyed it. So the opposite, the way to rebuild the Bet Hamikdash is by increasing our da'at. Any person that has da'at, this expanded consciousness, it's as if he rebuilt the Bet Hamikdash, because that's what the Bet Hamikdash was. The Bet Hamikdash was the portal of da'at for the whole world through Am Yisrael. One of the aspects of the da'at, one of the characteristics of the da'at is what our rabbis, our teachers at the tzaddikim called that the da'at sovel hafachim. The da'at is able to accept and welcome and allow for differences, for opposites. Opposites may coincide in a place of da'at. And that's what the point of having that space for people that are different than us is all about. It comes from da'at. When I have da'at, I'm able to create the space and keep the space for people that are different than us, even if they seem to be the opposite. Now, not to take that to the opposite extreme, we know that da'at is also, the characteristic of da'at is the ability to differentiate between what's holy and what's not holy. The holy and the mundane. Hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. The havdalah that we do, the separation and the distinguishing between the good, between the holy and the not holy, is through this part of our consciousness called da'at. At the same time, we are able to hold space for all of our brothers, for all of Am Yisrael, and for all those that seem to be different than us as well. And so now we come to an interesting point. There is a word in Hebrew, the word tziruf. The word tziruf has two meanings to it. On the one hand, the word tziruf means to combining different parts as one. And on the other hand, tziruf also can mean litzaref bahem, in order to purify, just like a goldsmith purifies the gold, and that's called kitzrof hakesef v'hazahav, where he purifies the silver. And what does that mean? That means that he takes out any of the impurities. Anything that is not gold is taken out in this process of purifying the gold, and anything that is not silver is taken out of the silver. And that also means that's the ability. That's a tzoref, and that's why he's called a tzoref, because he does this. He purifies and he cleans and he processes the gold or the silver. And so this word has two meanings. And why do they have two meanings? These two meanings of the same word are just two explanations of the same idea. Because the way that we combine all of the many parts, the way that we go from separateness to oneness, is by purifying all of the negativity. What does it mean, purifying ourselves from all the negativity? It means that all the negativity is taken out. It means that we cease to focus on the negativity. The thing that is holding us separate from each other is our focus on all the negativity in other people. But when we shift our focus from the negativity, from the physicality, the physical aspects, the bodies of everyone, and we shift that to a focus on the soul. The soul is the common denominator. We said that's the oneness, that's the life force within everything. And now our focus is only on that. And so that is what brings out of our experience all of that negativity, tziruf, purifying ourselves from that negativity, and tziruf, combining all the parts as one. And so this is the shift that we want to do from tzara to ritzeh, from that confined experience, the confined consciousness, to the expanded consciousness, to that patience, to that ratzon. And so a way that we can practically apply this, a meditation to practically apply this, is that we can all can do this after the shiur as well, but we can taste it a little bit now by thinking of somebody or something in our life that we don't have any patience for, that we just can't deal with. It is too much for us. Some sort of adversity we're going through, some sort of challenges, difficulties, or a certain person that we just can't stand. Can't standing is just another way of saying that I don't have, in my reality, there's no room for this person. So think of someone or something in your life right now that's what you feel. That's the feeling that you have. You don't have the patience for them. You don't like them. You can't stand them, or you can't stand it. It could be an experience. It could be a situation. It could be also something about yourself. You might focus on a certain aspect of yourself that you just can't stand anymore. It's just too much. You just want it to end. You want it to change. You should be something else. When we constantly speak about ourselves in that way, I should be different, or I should be this way, or I should be like that person, then that means that we don't have the space for that aspect of ourselves to just be. And so that's the first part of this meditation, is choosing something. Because when we choose something, that means that we are applying this practically, and we can experience the results in our day-to-day experience, in our day-to-day life. And so once you have chosen that thing that you want to focus on, just welcome that person, welcome that experience. And it doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't mean that by welcoming it, that this will manifest, that this difficulty or this pain or this suffering will continue. One of the paradoxes of reality is that we think that by resisting it, then that's how we will be saved from it. We think that by pushing people away, certain people that we can't stand, so we will be saved from that pain that we experience when thinking of them. We think that by pushing certain challenges in our life, by pushing them away, by covering it up, we think that we will be able to get over it in that way. But what we resist, unfortunately, persists. And when we do the opposite of resisting it, when we allow it to be, when we welcome it, when we shift from the energy of tzara to the energy of ritzei, to that just willingness and willing everything to just be as it is, even for just a moment, just welcoming it and allowing it to be, then that painful, constricted experience of that thing, that grip that it had on you, that control that it had on you, ceases to be so painful. The more you focus in this way, creating the space for that aspect or for that thing, or for that part of yourself, for that person, to just be, to just allow it to be completely openly, allowing it to continue, then we can begin to find a way to not be so hurt by that thing. And then we can find solutions. If certain necessary healthy boundaries need to be put in place, that's fine. As we said, that is also about distinguishing between what is holy and mundane, between what is good and what is bad. But at the same time, we create the space and we have the space and we love everyone and we accept everyone. And most importantly, we appreciate everyone. Because when you appreciate somebody, you're giving them the power to grow into that version that you are seeing them as. When you see them as a version and a greater version, and you focus on the good within them, and you appreciate that version of them, or the good aspects within them, and because of that you appreciate them as a wonderful human being, then you are making it easier for them to be that person. And it also makes it easier for you because now you see the light within them. And as we said, when we shift our focus from the negative, from the darkness to the light, to the positive, that's the tziruf, you're purifying. And that's combining all the parts together, mitzaref. And so, moving on to the next part of the shiur. All of these meditations, for example, this meditation we just did right now, as we began the shiur explaining, we can experience them not only in our relationships with people, with other people, our relationship with ourselves, and certain aspects in our life, but we can focus these meditations in our experience with the Torah and the mitzvot. Sometimes there are certain mitzvot that we just can't connect to. We don't have the patience for. it's fine. It's just something that we can work on. We work on it by just allowing it to be. And the more we allow it to be, the more we create the space and we expand that space. And then we can find ourselves learning a lot more Torah every day or fulfilling the mitzvot in a much greater level. And it's easy, it's pleasant, it's full of pleasure. The same thing with Hashem. The more that we can focus on Hashem, and some people, they have a difficult relationship with Hashem, and that can be shifted, it can be changed by expanding, by creating the space, by recognizing all the blessings that Hashem has blessed you with, by appreciating all the blessings that Hashem has given you in your life. And so what I'm pointing out is that these meditations can be applied in all these three dimensions. And so finally, the last part of this year, I'd like to speak about the tremendous power in judging other people favorably. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat teaches us that anyone who judges other people favorably, when you judge other people favorably, so in Shamayim, in the heavenly court, in the spiritual realm, they also judge you favorably. From above, they also judge you favorably. So the Gemara says it very clearly. But what the Baal Shem Tov comes and teaches us about this concept, about this idea, very, very, very important lesson, and he shows us how this lesson is alluded to and represented by this Mishnah in Masechet Avot, another Mishnah in Masechet Avot in the 3rd chapter, the 16th Mishnah, Mishnah Tetzayin, and the Mishnah says, "V'nifra'in min ha'adam mida'ato." And they punish a person, or they decree upon a person a difficult decree, whether he is aware, when he is aware of it, mida'ato, when he's aware of it, right, consciously, v'shelo mida'ato, and at the same time, he's not aware of it. It's unconscious. What does this mean? And so, in order to explain this, I'm going to read to you a very, very important piece here. The way the Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac of Komarna, one of the great Hasidic masters, explains this lesson from the Baal Shem Tov, in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. And he says it's if someone wants to look it up, it's in his sefer called Otzar HaChaim, printed together with a Heichal HaBracha. It's in a set of Sfarim that he wrote on the Chumash, on the Parshiyot HaShavua, and it's in Parshat Mishpatim. And he says like this, Kibalnu mimaran Elohi Baal Shem Tov. We received our tradition, this tradition that we received, this lesson we received from the Baal Shem Tov, the holy Baal Shem Tov. Sheperesh pasuk mikol peshaya tzileni cherpat naval atisimeni. Explaining a pasuk in Tehillim, that David HaMelech says that Hashem, please save me from all my sins, from many sins, and from the embarrassment of someone that is inappropriate. Don't put me in the embarrassment of someone that is inappropriate, in the embarrassment of a sinner. What does this mean? So said the Baal Shem Tov, explain the Baal Shem Tov, when a person sees something inappropriate, something wrong, something terrible, from a sinner, a terrible person, that did a terrible sin, a very great sin, you must judge him favorably. And judging favorably means there are many ways of judging favorably. Baal Shem Tov is going to give us one right now. He says, "Ki mitzad redifat hayetzer haboer bo oseh, o mitzad pchitut chomro ha'av she'eno yodea chomer ha'isur v'choze v'kayotze bazeh." So one suggestion of the Baal Shem Tov how to judge someone favorably is to think to yourself, convince yourself, recognize that you don't know the struggles that this person is going through. You don't know how difficult it is for this person to overcome their ego or their lusts and their desires and their lower self that is constantly driving them crazy to do all of these crazinesses. And finally, he gave in to this thing that you saw him do. You have no idea what came before that was going on internally, and what type of upbringing he had, and what type of background he has, and what else is going on in his life, and all the challenges in his life. And you also have no idea how difficult it is for him, maybe, to experience the light of Hashem, to experience the sweetness in the Torah and the mitzvot. Some people, they just can't feel it as easily as other people. They can't access it as easily. And so how can you judge this person that he's a terrible person because of what you just saw him doing and how you see him acting based on that? How can you judge him upon just based on that? It could be that this person, with all of the wonderful things that they're doing, the small tiny things that they're doing in their life, they're overcoming so many challenges in order to do those tiny things that you're not even aware of, that those tiny things are even much greater than you could ever reach, than you can ever come to. So that's one way of judging a person favorably. Another way of judging a person favorably is famously taught by Rabbi Nachman in Likutei Moharan, Torah Resh Pei Bet 282, in the first part of Likutei Moharan, and where he teaches us that just because you see a person doing certain sins and acting in a terrible way or speaking negatively or whatever it is, that doesn't make the person a terrible person. Okay? Focus on all the good aspects in that person. And you personally know about yourself. Each one of us have those things within ourselves that we would love that nobody know about, and we make sure nobody knows about, and we hide those aspects, and we make sure that the part of ourselves that everyone sees and that everyone knows is the best, the highest, the greatest, the most respectable parts of ourselves. And so the Baal Shem Tov taught that part of ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, loving your brother like yourself, is just like you cover up those negative aspects in yourself and you shine the spotlight on the good aspects in yourself. Do the same for your friend. Do the same for your neighbor. Shine the spotlight only on the good aspects in them. And so that's the way the Rabbi Nachman taught to judge them favorably, meaning that don't judge the person on the negative aspects. Shift the focus and shift the awareness and the spotlight onto the positive, and see them as a person filled with all that positive, all those good traits, all those good characteristics. Now, what's the significance? What's the importance of doing this? This is an exercise. The Baal Shem Tov is giving us an exercise, a way of living. Again, this is something that we can practice every day. Now, one of the side effects, one of the benefits of this, Baal Shem Tov teaches us, "Ubazeh matzil gam atzmo midin." In this way, you will save yourself as well from judgment. כי באמת, כיוון שרואה דברי נבלה בחברו ידע שיש בו בעצמו גם כן מעין דבר זה. שיש עליו דינים ומקטרגים, וכשימצא זכות לחברו יהיה גם עליו זכות. The Baal Shem Tov taught that whatever you see outside in your outer reality is a reflection of what's going on inside. Whatever you see in this physical world as well is a reflection of what's going on in the spiritual world. And so when a person sees negativity outside, a person didn't just happen that the person in front of you, the person that you saw, or the person that your attention was on, did something terrible. It doesn't just happen that way. It's all to show you should recognize that you have that exact negative trait or characteristic in yourself as well. Maybe in not the same extent and maybe not in the same way, but somehow, somewhere you have that same negative trait and that same negative characteristics. And as we said, the what's going on here in this physical world is a representation of what's going on above. And so if right now you are seeing this in that person, and that's a representation of what's going on inside, what you have inside by you, it means that right now in the heavenly court, it's being awakened, it's being remembered, and it's brought right now in front of the heavenly court, that same negative trait, that same negative aspect that you have in yourself, in your personal life. And Baal Shem Tov says that if at this moment, as they're showing it to you in your outside world, you choose to shift the focus on the positive. You choose to judge this person positively. You choose, instead of cursing this person in your head and thinking that so much negative things should happen to that person for living in such a way and for acting in such a way, you choose to bless them. And you choose to bless them because who knows what they're going through, and there must be other good things in them. And you find the good things in them, you judge them favorably, and you bless them in your heart. In the same way and at the same time, in the heavenly court, you are signing the papers. You are causing that the judgment for you should also be positive, should also be favorable. ובזה שאינו מעורר דינים על איש חוטא שעושה מחמת התגברות היצר הבוער בו איזה מעשה רשע, מקיים בזה לא תטה משפט אביונך בריבו, בעת שעוברים עליו ניסיונות וריבות He says that in this way you are fulfilling a mitzvah in the Torah that says that you should not judge a poor person who has nothing, who is desolate. You should not judge him negatively. And by taking this person in front of you and recognizing that it's because of his challenges and his difficulty that he's going through, that he went through this, and really he is a positive, he's really good, and he really deserves nothing but blessings, then you are fulfilling this mitzvah. And all of this was only a challenge. It was a challenge that they brought the person in this nisayon. Because we received from the Baal Shem Tov, and this is how it fits into the Mishnah. Nothing is decreed upon a person from above unless he himself decided it to be this way. He says no one in their right mind will decree upon themselves, would finalize a decree in a negative way upon themselves in Shamayim. So if they never sign a difficult decree on a person, never, says the Baal Shem Tov, and he knows what's happening in Shamayim, never do they sign a difficult decree upon a person unless he himself, the person himself, signed the decree. If he did not sign the decree, then the decree will not be finalized and it will not be brought into action. It will be torn up and dissolved. So then who in their right mind will sign a difficult decree upon themselves, would find all the challenges that you're going through in your life right now, says the Baal Shem Tov, any adversity, any pain, any suffering, you yourself signed it. You are the one who finalized the decree. So how is that possible? Who in their right mind would do such a thing? So he teaches us, this is what it means, nifrain min adam mida'ato v'shel mida'ato, that the punishments or the difficulties or the pain that a person experiences in life is brought upon a person consciously and at the same time subconsciously, unconsciously, because they show you someone else. And in the outside world, doing something negative, that negativity in that other person is connected to that negativity that you yourself have on some level, in some way, that is being awakened now in the heavenly court. And the way you judge that person, when you judge that person, if you judge that person positive, in a positive way, you are right now at the same time tearing up the difficult decree from upon you for that same negative trait, for that same negative characteristic. And not only that, you can cause blessings to come in its place. And so that's very, very, very powerful to know that we have the power to change our reality just by the way we see other people, and we can do this practically by seeing who it is in our life that we are judging in a negative way right now, and how and where can we find that aspect, that negative aspect in ourselves that we're not aware of. Obviously, we're not aware of it on some level, and bring that to our awareness. And now, how can we shift our focus instead of being judgmental, negative, to positive, and to seeing it in a different light? Right? How would you judge yourself positively right now? If you were really, really, truly aware that right now in the heavenly court, these are the books that are open. And now, when you shift that focus to the positive and you judge yourself positively, how would you want the heavenly court to judge you? All the blessings, now turn around and shine that upon that other person. Right? Because if you recognize that whatever the way you look at that person is the way they'll look at you, so then you'll look at that person differently. And the next level of this exercise is to start off with that other person. Instead of doing it for your own personal benefit, start off by blessing that other person. Start off by finding the good in that other person. And then see how you have that idea, that concept, that character trait in yourself. And then you'll know that blessing and that positive outlook, that positive perspective will be brought upon yourself as well. And so in these ways, we can learn to connect to the light of the Geula, especially in these holy days that we said is the tremendous potential, and the source for the 21 days of all the Yamim Tovim of the year are in these 21 days. And we can shift from the experience of Churban, of destruction, to Chibur, from the separation to the oneness, from the Golah to the Geula, from the exile to the redemption, from Dam to Adam, from just physicality, from just the blood to Alufo Shel Olam, being a portal or a representation of Hashem's godliness and Hashem's blessings in this world, shifting from Tzara, from the confined, constricted state, to Ritzeh, to that patience, into that openness, into that space that we said is all about the Bet Hamikdash, the dot, that expanded consciousness. And in this way, we will merit to see the revelation of the Geula, B'mehera b'yameinu, the revelation of the Haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. Have a meaningful Tisha B'Av.